Yeah! Here we go!
It's time for TSS Fantasy.
It is Commissioner Cooper.
Hold on. That's a big balls move. Do you want your title?
Happy Sunday. Happy early morning trash football game.
Yes! We're back, baby! Let's go!
Feud with Aaron Rodgers. Like, I almost got banned off TikTok for the things I did.
Apparent MCL sprain on his knee. He has had some nagging hamstring issues over the years.
D. Lots of fun words start with D, like bye weeks.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Commissioner Cooper, and it's time for TSS Fantasy.
Yeah.
Well, it's not Friday night. It's Thursday night. But we're still feeling all right because we got playoffs to get to tonight. So we're here to help you get things started and break it on down for you. I know we got some action going already. 7-7. Kyle Pitts finding the end zone, which is few and far between. Let's pay the bills real quick. If you're watching on YouTube, do us a solid. Give us a like. Throw your comments in there. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Little things stopping you from doing it. Big things popping for us when we do, so we appreciate that. Also, if you are playing some daily fantasy, go to the Fast Trap app and use the promo code TSS. We'll double that deposit up to $50. So make sure you do that and get paid on Sunday. We'll give you some ultimate DFS lineups to play, so that'll be good for your wallet as well. And then if you're looking for some championship bling, because we're about to get a fantasy champion, look no further than Pro-Am Belts. Let's get the introduction started. Welcome to the studio, Justin Jesus Herrera.
Yeah, so it's playoffs time, and it's time to get those strong drinks going for Christmas. You guys were talking about coquitos, and it kind of reminded me of like putting eggnog and rum and experimenting with eggnog and whiskey and all that stuff, getting the seasonal stuff going. But yeah, you need to pour yourself a seasonal drink because I don't know where you're at. If it's cold here, it's about to be snowy on Sunday. So good day to just tune into TSS Fantasy and tune into regular NFL all day long.
Indeed. While we were up in New York, we went to some little Christmas thing. I don't know what the hell it was, but they were serving this. I forgot what they called it, but it was like fancy hot chocolate. But it was another word they used. And they had bourbon in the hot chocolate. I've never done that. I've never drank that before, but it was actually really damn good. So just to throw some other Christmas drinks in mind, not too shabby. All right, well, we got some injury news to get started with. So let's bring our boy Brian Scott from the Injured List podcast in.
It's time to get your latest NFL injury updates with Brian from the Injured List podcast. The doctor is in.
There you go.
What's up, Brian? How are we this evening? All right. That's what I'm talking about.
Got a little cinnamon stick in there for a little extra added flavor. Can't go wrong. Good stuff, man. Every year, my Puerto Rican friends or patients always hook me up, and I appreciate it dearly.
Gotta love it indeed. What is good with Tony D in the house? Appreciate you. And the MEG Zone in the house. What's up, Meg? Hope you're doing well on this fine. Well, I don't know. It must be really early morning for you this late. So, geez, oh, please. Thank you for joining us, guys. We appreciate you. Brian, what is going on? And while you're doing that, I'm going to restart my computer because I got some major lag going on right now. So while you're talking, I'm going to come out and come back in. So go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I apologize. My computer's been lagging all week. Maybe it's because we're getting into week 15 here and it's starting to tire out just like everybody else in the NFL. But mainly the Colts at the quarterback position. Jesus Christ. Daniel Jones goes down with an Achilles season-ending injury. Third time he'll be lost for the season due to injury. He had that ACL tear a few years ago with the Giants. He also had a neck injury that saw him end the season prematurely with the Giants. The problem for the Colts is that Anthony Richardson, I don't think, has anybody seen him since like week 3 or whatever it was? He had that orbital bone fracture from a mishap with an exercise band that fractured his orbital bone. Like, I've never even heard of that happening. And I don't think anyone's seen him since. So he's still not available. And apparently he hasn't even been cleared yet for anything. So I don't anticipate he'll be back anytime soon. The helm has been passed to Riley Leonard, who himself popped up on the injury report also with some type of knee soreness. Now, he did practice in full, and it sounds like it's nothing serious. But this has forced the Colts to now dig deep into the barrel of retired players and pulled up Phillip Rivers, who was about to be nominated on the list of Hall of Fame inductees, possibly at the age of 44. So now he's going to literally have to suspend that for 5 more years, right? Is that right, Justin? And he's been participating in the practice. Now, if you want to talk about a guy who's ripe for an Achilles injury, there's your man right there. 44 years old, stepping back on the NFL field after not having done anything for a couple of years since like 2022 or 21 or whatever. Good luck. That's all I can say.
Homie just became a granddad too. Imagine you're trying to run around with your little grandson at 1 year old and you're like, oh, sorry, boy. Your granddaddy just got his ass kicked on Sunday and tore his ACL or whatever, It's just I feel for him. I feel for him because like I love the excitement of coming back. But at the same time, Phillip Rivers, 5 years ago, you weren't doing good. What makes you think 5 years later you're going to be doing that much better? Like,
it just has all the makings of a disaster waiting to happen. So hopefully it doesn't. But man, I don't know what they're thinking. I guess this is what panic mode truly looks like. Moving along, we got Jaden Daniels left the game this past weekend after kind of re-aggravating that elbow. Now, by all reports, he didn't re-dislocate it. It just sounds like he bumped it up and it got sore, and it's going to be like that for the rest of the season. So I don't know if we were even going to see him back at any point. They already ruled him out this Sunday. He's literally going to be game by game. I wouldn't be surprised if they hold him out for an extended period of time and don't risk further injury there.
Brian, I got to ask you a quick question on that part.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about this. Your season is lost. This is your franchise quarterback. Do doctors have any say as far as like, is it just passing along medical advice? But do they have any say as far as going like, hey, hello, this dude is going to be your future $100 million, maybe at that point, like $300 to $400 million quarterback. Do you really want to risk RG3 in his ass over a season that's already lost? Like, what are these guys? Are they that desperate to put something on the field? Like, I don't know.
I don't know either. All I can say is from a team physician standpoint, their job is not really to tell them whether it's in their best interest to play these guys. Their job is solely to look out for the individual athlete, their health, and their well-being. So if they feel that he's at risk, they would not clear him. They would tell the team he's not able to play. And if the team goes against that, they could potentially be in violation of NFL rules or contracts. So they're not going to risk that because they could get fined. They could potentially be fined heavily and penalized in some way, shape, or form, going against the medical advice of the team physician. And there's backing from the NFL Players Association on that kind of stuff too. So if things got a little rocky in that regard, the healthcare team can go right to the NFLPA and raise hell with the league if there's any issues about them overstepping their boundaries or disregarding medical advice. So this is usually what happens in this scenario is the doctors are basically saying, listen, he's cleared to play. Here's the risks. Here's the benefits. Here's what you should look out for. But, with his injury, it's not unrealistic for him to be able to play and get back this quickly. It's not. We do it quite frequently. And in a sport where it's not his dominant arm, he doesn't throw with that arm. As long as he can protect himself from further injury, whether it be with a brace or without, medically speaking, he's cleared to play. So it then becomes the team's decision about whether they want to risk him going back out there, whether they think they need him or not. So it's, they're going to take the input from the medical team and do what's in their best interest, not necessarily what's in the player's best interest. But this is where the player also has to stand up for themselves. Sometimes their agent will get involved. And if they need to, the head athletic trainer, the head medical person who oversees everything medical related, who's usually one of the staff people on the organization, can have the final say. Now, you'll sometimes get pushback from coaches and some of the players themselves in some cases, but ultimately you have to do what's best for the player and their overall health and longevity in the league. And if they're smart, that's what they'll be thinking going forward, even though that may not have been what they did this first time around. So it's a very complicated, not so sometimes straightforward process, unfortunately, even though it probably should be. Now, going into more of a mess, I think the only other team that's probably in more of a mess than the Colts is the Jets at the quarterback position. You got Tyrod Taylor, who hasn't practiced this week yet after injuring his groin and coming out of the game. You got Justin Fields, who nobody's seen either, dealing with some type of mysterious knee issue after going 2-7 in the first 9 weeks. So they put in their rookie third-string quarterback now, and it looks like he's going to get the nod again this week. I don't anticipate Tyrod Taylor coming back this week. Maybe we'll see him in week 16. But, here's another team that basically is playing for nothing. Do you put your rookie out there and just let him do his thing and see what you got? Or do you put Tyrod Taylor in there? Because it doesn't look like Justin Fields coming back anytime soon. Nor do I think they even want him back. So, and I don't even necessarily know if it's because of the injury. I think it's just because of his poor performance. Geno Smith had a shoulder issue. It sounds like it just got kind of jammed up on him. It sounds like it's nothing serious. They did some testing. It was nothing major or structurally wrong there. I think he'll be working his way back into the game this weekend. He might have did some limited stuff at practice today. He should ramp up. At the running back position, Achane had some rib injuries. It sounds like there was no fractures, probably just some contusions or sprains. He looks like he's going to be good to go, though, this weekend. They're pretty optimistic he'll be available. Josh Jacobs has been dealing with some knee swelling. Apparently, this was an issue that he had earlier in the year, and I think maybe even in years past, where he just gets swelling from time to time in his knee, but an MRI didn't show any major structural damage or injuries to the knee. However, in the past, he has missed some time because of this. So this is something to certainly keep an eye on. I don't think he practiced at all this week as of yet. He might get some action tomorrow, Friday, in practice, but this could be a potential game time decision here. So it's certainly something to watch out for because he has missed time with this particular problem in the past. We don't know what's causing the knee swelling. It could be a chronic thing that pops up from time to time, in which case that would be the best case scenario because he could probably get a handle on it. But it doesn't sound optimistic about this week because he didn't go so far as to say in press conferences today when being asked by reporters whether or not he's going to play. He wouldn't commit. So sounds like he's not 100% sure himself. Speaking of the Jets again, Breece Hall apparently not practicing due to some knee soreness. I don't think this is anything serious. I do think this is probably related to his ACL injured knee from a few years ago. He's probably going to have this happen from time to time throughout the rest of his career, but it didn't sound like it was anything serious. I anticipate he'll probably be available this week. The Cardinals made it official. Trey Benson will not come back this season. He is officially done. They had until tomorrow, I think, or one of these days this week to activate him, and they've officially said no, which we kind of saw coming. Alvin Kamara, it looks like he's going to be in yet another week. I think we originally said about 2 to 4 weeks, anytime they're within, and we're heading into week 3 now. He'll probably miss. He hasn't done anything on the practice field this week. We'll see if he does anything next week, ramping up his activity if he's ready to come back week 16. Woody Marks should be good to go. He had a limited session today, Thursday, but it sounds like he's treading in the right direction. It doesn't sound like anything serious. He should be in there. And Nick Chubb is probably not going to be in there because he missed his second day of practice with the rib injury. Again, they haven't said if it's fractured or sprained or what it is, but 2 days missed. I don't see him coming back from that. Those are pretty painful that it can take a while to get better. Chris Rodriguez with a groin injury. He did not practice on Wednesday, but he did get in a limited session today. He'll probably work his way up. I expect before being cleared or before being activated for the game, he will get a full practice in. That's the only way to really test it out. So it could be a questionable tag, could be a game time decision. Dylan Sampson of the Browns was a second straight day of not practicing with calf and hand injuries. But keep in mind, he was one of 10 Browns players who didn't practice on Thursday at all. So the Browns, as a team, are taking a big hit there as they head into Chicago this weekend. That could be possibly Sampson could possibly not be available or questionable. Keaton Mitchell was a full participant today, coming back from a knee issue. Sounds like he's actually going to be good to go. The team's optimistic. And early on in his injury, they were optimistic he'd be ready. Surprisingly, C.D. Lamb practiced in full after what looked like a pretty nasty concussion. He actually was lights out, had that posturing position with decorticate positioning with his arms flexed to his body, which is always a sign of a traumatic brain injury. And miraculously, he was back on the practice field full. Now, he did not get cleared necessarily, but that is one step closer to getting cleared. He'll still need to be symptom-free and get cleared by an independent neurological consultant. That can happen anytime between now and Sunday when they play. So something to look out there. Devontae Adams did not practice 2 days. with this hamstring thing that crept up on him, but apparently was doing some light rehab work on the sideline. So it sounds like it's probably nothing serious. He had something similar earlier this year and did not miss any time. He's a veteran. He doesn't need much time to get better. I think he's just being cautionary here. So we should see him. T. Higgins, I don't think we're going to see him for at least another week. Probably came back too soon from that concussion he had in week 13 because he went right back into concussion protocol on Monday. Apparently, he may have hit his head again on the field late in the game this past weekend. That's concerning. Whenever you have repetitive head trauma like that, it's a cumulative effect on the brain, so it makes the possibility of a concussion moving forward much more likely, and the severity could be much worse. So if the Bengals are smart here, he will not be ready to go this week, which I don't see happening. He hasn't practiced yet. Or, I'm sorry, he was in a very limited, and I use that in quotation marks, very limited practice session today, so he probably didn't do much anyway. But I think it'd be foolish for them to risk it and throw him back out there this week. We'll see if he does anything next week. DK Metcalf was hospitalized with some stomach pain after the game this past weekend in Baltimore, but turns out everything checked out normal. He was released with the team and made it back home. Just more of a precautionary thing. I always think about Chris Sims and his ruptured spleen from several years ago when playing in Carolina, and he actually played through the game and then was found to have internal bleeding of his spleen and had to have emergent surgery and transfuse blood. It was kind of scary. That's potentially serious. So it sounds like everything ruled out okay. And DK Metcalf, I think, was full practice today, so that's good. Rome Odunze, early reports when he first went down with his foot injury said stress fracture. That usually means automatically several week absence, but then he's been limited the last 2 days at practice. So maybe it's not as bad as we originally thought. Still not sure if he's going to be available this weekend, but certainly something to watch closely on a day-to-day basis here as we move closer to the weekend games. The Jets, I mean, Garrett Wilson's also apparently nowhere to be found. He's actually available now to open his 21-day window, and the Jets have not yet done that. He's been on IR since week 11, so 15 would be when they can activate his 21-day window. They haven't done it. We might not see him at all the rest of the way. That wouldn't surprise me, the way that their season's going. Marvin Harrison, apparently this heel injury that he has now may be worse than we initially thought. Second straight day he was not at practice. Now, apparently, Jonathan Gannon's supposed to update the press tomorrow before practice about his status going forward, which that could end up being bad news. We'll have to see what happens. Doesn't look like he's going to be out there this week, at least. Could potentially be longer. We'll have to see what he says. Matthew Golden with his wrist, he was limited with this nagging wrist injury that he's been dealing with since week 12. He missed a couple of games because of it, and then got in the game this weekend for 5 snaps. I think they threw the ball to him once, and he had no catches. So I'm not sure what to expect out of him this weekend. Probably not much, even if he does play. But he's still carrying that injury with him, and it seems to be affecting him. Parker Washington, limited practice on Thursday after missing the game this past weekend with a hip injury. So it sounds like he's working his way back. I'm not sure if he'll be ready. Terrible injury for Zach Ertz. It looked really nasty. Turns out it was, in fact, an ACL. Luckily for him, his foot was not planted when the injury happened, so I think that spared him a multi-ligament injury. However, at the age of 35 and having played 15 years in the league, this potentially could be career-ending. When you also consider that it's now week 16 that this happened, that almost eliminates all of next year. So now you're looking at possibly returning maybe for a few games next season, if at all, and then not until a full season for 27, 28. That's a long time away, man. And at his age, you have to wonder if it's even worth it anymore. Hopefully he doesn't make a decision right away. I think he'll probably take many months of rehab before he decides whether or not he's going to do it. But a devastating injury at a pretty critical point in one's career. You don't want to go out like that. Unfortunately, he possibly could. David Njoku, no practices so far this week. That's not good news. He's dealing with some type of knee issue. He's a pretty tough guy. Usually if he can go, he'll go. So the fact that he hasn't practiced 2 times this week is concerning and possibly means he's not going to be available this weekend. Jake Ferguson popped up on the injury report with the calf injury. Did a little bit of light work on Wednesday, but so did the rest of the team. I'm not sure if that means anything, and then didn't practice at all on Thursday. So that tells me that he's probably not going to be available this weekend. If he doesn't do anything on Friday, it's pretty much guaranteed. And then Theo Johnson, some reports had him listed with a toe injury, but it sounds like it's nothing serious. He's not even carrying an injury tag into the weekend and did practice limited today, but they had the bye week last week, so he should be good to go. And that's it. That's all the ones I've got on my list for weeks.
I did hear today that Christian McCaffrey was limited due to an illness. I don't know if you had mentioned that earlier, but that's probably like some flu thing. No big deal.
As you know, Coop, vaginitis can creep up when you least expect it. So you can't always prepare for these things. Sometimes they just happen. You have to just kind of go with it. But that usually clears up pretty quick with a little bit of cream and some ointment. So
heard that.
I think he'll be back.
TJ Watt, I saw. Is it TJ? Whatever. The brother on the Steelers. That guy. I also saw a weird thing pop up when I was checking my fantasy stuff today that he actually had to be admitted to the hospital after being at practice and having some trouble breathing. So there's something going on with his lungs or something like that. So his status is questionable right now. So just want to throw that out there too.
Yeah, you have to wonder if maybe he's got some like upper respiratory thing going on, or possibly maybe a history of asthma that might have flared up or something. This time of year, a lot of people with asthma struggle.
Yeah,
with the cold temperatures, 100%. The dry air, no humidity.
Oh yeah, I struggle all the freaking time with winters over here. It's just I've had asthma my entire life. It's just one of those things that summertime is all the pollen, wintertime is just the dense air. So
Yep, that's a very common problem for asthmatics. So you have to wonder if maybe that's what it is, or maybe he's got some upper respiratory thing. There's a lot of upper respiratory infections that go around this time of year as well. People being confined indoors because of cold weather, a lot of stuff gets transmitted. So it's not unusual.
Go follow Brian at the Injured List podcast everywhere on social media. And also you can find him right here on That Sports Podcast Network. Does a lot of great injury stuff and great interviews as well. So make sure you check that out. And you can see him on Sunday mornings with us when you wake up with TSS Fantasy.
Well, not this Sunday, unfortunately. I'll be gone. I'll be traveling, heading out of town for vacation for the next 2 weeks. This is pretty much it for my season, really, until we get to the Super Bowl. Unless you guys need me for the playoffs, of course I'll be around. But big show for the Super Bowl. I do it every year, so pay attention as we get closer to the Super Bowl. I'll be back for New Year's, and then we'll be, I'll be around. But
then happy holidays, Brian.
As far as fantasy goes, this is pretty much it for me, and most of you too. I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, if you're not watching tonight, you're probably not in the playoffs, so that's probably what it is. But yeah. All right, Brian. Well, we appreciate you. Happy holidays to you, my friend, and we'll see you probably on the New Year, I guess.
That's right. Cheers, guys. Happy New Year. Happy holidays.
All right, we'll see him out with our friends from NeuroGuard Plus. Thanks, Brian.
Dr. Michael Hutchison has harnessed the latest in neuromuscular dentistry and impact technology to develop a mouthguard that does more than protect. It enhances. NeuroGuard Plus isn't just a mouthguard. By focusing on the jaw's physiological position, it provides an added layer of neuroprotection, significantly reducing the risk of sports-related neurological injuries. All athletes should be using a custom mouthguard designed to their bite position. NeuroGuard Plus was created as a means to maintain your physiological jaw position regardless of your bite. The appliance is designed to optimize your upper-lower jaw relationship to improve your strength, your balance, your oxygen intake, and drastically lower your chance of a concussion. Independent studies have shown that the NeuroGuard Plus will provide you with improvement to both upper and lower body strength. The same improvements were not present with a common mouthguard. Over 6,500 athletes have used the NeuroGuard Plus. Dr. Hutchison is happy to say that the amount of diagnosed concussions is 0.2%. The NeuroGuard Plus offers athletes, coaches, and parents an advantage to keep their players safe on the field. If you or your child actively participates in athletics, they need to be protected from the dangers of repetitive head trauma. Get your NeuroGuard Plus mouthguard today. Click on the link and use code ILP Sports for 10% discount on your purchase.
Boy, that internet is lagging. I only got I heard NeuroGuard Plus, and then the rest froze. So there I was. Mike Evans took a huge hit just then. Still 7-7. One thing I did notice that the Falcons are blitzing the hell out of Baker Mayfield tonight. So he's having all kind of issues. Mike Evans, though, grabbing his back as he walked off the field on that one. So hopefully you guys did not start him tonight. It was a little early for that. I would have thought. I gave my son the same advice.
Yeah. You got to wait. You got to wait and see what he's going to bring to the table. Because even early on, he wasn't looking like the Mike Evans of old. But yeah, I mean, I just nabbed him from the waivers a week ago in our league, and I'm okay sitting him until next week.
Well, yeah, you don't have to play this week, so a couple of us don't actually have to play this week.
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right, one of the host of TSS.
Perks of being on the bye. Get your bye weeks in, dog. Always get your bye weeks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sit and chill and wait. That's it. And plus, you got we had 2 weeks to prepare for our game. So I was already looking ahead, like, hey, who's starting that week and who's not. All right. Well, we got a whole playoff week to break down. Let's get it.
It's time to get your lineup set with TSS Fantasy's Friday Night Breakdown.
Breakdown.
Bring it on down. Breakdown.
Bring it on down.
Bring it on down.
Bucks kick a field goal. It is 10-7 Bucks. 2 minutes, a little over 2 minutes to go in the first half. All right, let's get this thing broken on down. A great game to start out with for fantasy implications. Baltimore Ravens are visiting the Cincinnati Bengals. Baltimore 20th against fantasy QBs. They are 22nd against running backs, 23rd against receivers. They're 7th against tight ends. The Bengals 30th against QBs. They're dead last against running backs, 5th against receivers, and they're dead last against tight ends. So what say you, Justin, on the Baltimore Ravens?
So Lamar looked good last week, and he's healthy this week. He opened up with a questionable tag, but that seemed to wipe away by Wednesday, which was great. I think you got to go with your heavy hitters in this game. You just got to go with your Derrick Henry. Go with Lamar Jackson, because I think this is going to be a little bit more Lamar centered than the last game was. And as far as the receivers, I don't even trust Zay Flowers in this game. I know he's got to get it to somebody, but Lamar Jackson can sometimes be like Josh Allen. He can supply guys that are on the bench that you never even heard of with a touchdown over Zay Flowers. So I think you kind of leave Zay Flowers off. Mark Andrews has not instilled a lot of faith either. Isaiah Likely is a hell of an option if you really need like a flex, or if you're short tight end. He seems to have gotten on Lamar's good graces, and NFL, that should have been a touchdown. Like, nobody here is thinking that shouldn't have been a touchdown. He put 3 steps in before he lost that ball. Everybody fucking saw it. Everybody knows it. That was bullshit. But anyways, I think that those 3 guys are the best options: Lamar, Derrick Henry, and Isaiah Likely.
So this is pretty simple, because you're definitely, Joe Burrow to me in this matchup. He's a top 12 QB this week. Jamar Chase with no T. Higgins should shine this week as well. I would mention Oshivas, but the other guy I'm really going to mention is Mike Gesicki. When Joe Burrow's in this lineup, he gets that ball to Mike Gesicki, I have to say. So he's kind of pulled up to me as far as, and again, this is the playoffs, so you don't want to mess around too much. But if you got some guy you're not certain about, Mike Gesicki is a great option, especially with Joe Burrow in this lineup. So, he's moved up to that, almost out of that first tier for me. So I like that. And, again, Oshivas, everyone picked him up when Jamar was out, thinking, he would, and he did okay. But usually when Oshivas does good is when T. Higgins is out. So this is where I could see Oshivas having a good day. And of course, you got to go with the running back as well, Chase Brown. I mean, he's been killing it, especially in PPR. So, again, this is you play your studs in this one, and I wouldn't even think about any of these defenses in this matchup. All right, let's go to the next one. The Raiders going to Philly to face the Eagles. Raiders against fantasy QBs are 17th. They're 24th against running backs, 28th against receivers. They're 4th against tight ends. On the Eagles side, 14th against QBs, 23rd, against running backs. Huge shock to me. 13th against receivers, and they're 3rd against tight ends. So, Justin, who you like on those Raiders?
No one. Like, seriously, like no one. I'd be okay with Brock Bowers, but even that, I'm like, Kenny Pickett is starting. Like, at this point, he's so bad. He came in for a series, and people were saying throw Geno back out there, like, because he was that fucking bad, dude. Like, they're trying to rev this up, like, oh, former Super Bowl quarterback returns to play his old team. We're just like, nobody actually thinks that Kenny Pickett was ever like supposed to get a Super Bowl ring. Like, he got it because he was like the 3rd string guy on the Eagles. Brock Bowers is the only one I feel comfortable, and that's just because he could literally take a dirt ball and make it a touchdown. So I'm okay with getting Brock Bowers, but even Ashton Genty, I think they're going to be so focused on stopping the run in this game that, it's just going to be loaded boxes all the time. They're going to be sacking Kenny Pickett. This is going to be 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And you're just hopeful that one touchdown gets on the board for the other Raiders in this game. And if the Eagles really do choke on this game, then it's game over. That Eagles fly 13 in here, dude, if you guys lose to the Raiders, just chalk it up. You're done. You're over. If you even let the Raiders within 3 points of the final score in a loss, it's done. You're over.
Yeah, so I feel like this is going to be a get-right game for the Eagles offensively. Obviously, Jalen Hurts, to me, at least top 12 QB, probably on the lower end of that first tier. Love Saquon in this matchup. I'm going to say, I would say, oh, wow, big bomb there. Woo! Atlanta, like, coming with it tonight, boy. Kyle Pitts, where you been all year? So, yeah, out of the receivers of the Eagles, I feel like this is a Devonta Smith game. I feel like this is the one. I know he's been getting targeted a lot, but not a lot have been hitting. I think that they're going to get right with Devonta Smith in this particular matchup. I still obviously going to start A.J. Brown. And Goddard, to me, more on the low end of the top 2 tier this week. So the Raiders have been pretty good against tight ends. So that's how I see that one. All right, let's get to the next one. We got Arizona at Houston. Arizona against fantasy QBs are 12th. They're 29th against Kyle Pitts again, touchdown. 29th against running backs, 17th against receivers, and they're 25th against tight ends. Houston, number 1 against QBs. They're 9th against running backs, 3rd against receivers, 5th against tight ends. Who you like on them Cardinals?
Somewhere Meg is doing her Falcon dance. I don't know what it is, but she's got a dance. You said for the Cardinals, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's hard. I don't really like anybody on the Cardinals, and it's not because they're not good. It's because this defense is so fucking good. I think this is once again, for me, I have a lot of Michael Wilson, and I don't feel safe putting him in a flex spot in a championship because every game in the playoff is your championship, right? You got to win it to move on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So I don't feel comfortable playing him. I definitely don't feel comfortable playing Jacoby Brissett. I think the only one I feel comfortable playing is Trey McBride. And even that one is kind of sketchy for me because I'm like, this offense could totally get annihilated. Like, we could have Jacoby Brissett on his back the entire game.
You very well could and probably will see that. I kind of am okay with Wilson, the flex, if Harrison's not there. Only because they just target him so damn much. It's like, geez, oh please. But he's been a great waiver wire pickup, by the way. As far as Houston is concerned, this is, to me, the Woody Marks game. Arizona not really good against running backs this season. And as you mentioned, we'll probably see Jacoby Brissett on his back a lot in this particular matchup, which game script tells me they're going to be running the football a lot. Houston is anyway, especially as they get up. So I like Woody Marks a lot, really, in this particular matchup. Nico Collins is starting to come back up a little bit. So, he's more still, to me, like in the flex range still hasn't really earned those stripes. You know, and I'm not really touching CJ Stroud in this in the playoffs, as you mentioned. You got to get to the next game. So, all right, let's get to the next one. The Chargers are visiting the Kansas City Chiefs. Chargers against QBs are 2nd, 13th against running backs, 2nd against receivers, 8th against tight ends. The Chiefs are 15th against QBs, 6th against running backs, 15th against receivers, 6th against tight ends. What say you about the LA Chargers?
Yeah, so I'm going to go. I like Omer and Hampton, Justin Herbert, Ladidi McConkey could be a good one in this one. I mean, he's kind of showed up. He kind of hasn't. As far as like wide receivers go for this team, it's really tough because Keenan Allen shows up as a receiver in the PPR stats. Quentin Johnston can get you a touchdown. Lad McConkey is supposed to be the most consistent guy, and sometimes he doesn't show up. So I think I'll keep it just simple with Herbert, Hampton, and McConkey. I think those are the guys I trust in playoff week.
So on the Chiefs, I'm going to be real. I don't trust anyone, quite frankly. I mean, Rashee Rice, yes. I mean, obviously, I don't really trust Kelsey all that much. Pacheco, Hunt, who's it going to be? Mahomes is okay. You know, he's probably a little bit outside the top 12, somewhere in there. But, you know, there's nothing on the Chiefs right now that I can really fully trust. Really, quite frankly, that offense is really struggling. I do remember, though, ironically, we went up to Philly for the home opener, and these two teams were playing the Sunday night game, if I remember right, because I remember being at the bar pretty late and watching it. The Chargers looked like they were going to, like, take the game away, and then the Chiefs suddenly came back on them. So, you know, what I'm looking at here as far as fantasy concerned is really Rashee Rice on the Chiefs. I don't really trust anything else, quite honestly. And I think the Chargers are going to go in KC and win this thing, quite frankly. So it's just my personal opinion. And ironically enough, they're playing again, and we're going to Philly this weekend.
No.
I didn't get it. All right, let's go to the next one. Bills at the Patriots. Bills against fantasy QBs are 5th, 26th against running backs, 14th against receivers, number 1 against tight ends. Patriots, 16th against QBs. They're 3rd against running backs, 16th against receivers, and 24th against tight ends. What say you about them Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, so Bills it's a kind of an easier one. Of course, you're playing Josh Allen. Of course, you're playing James Cook. I like Dalton Kincaid in this matchup. It's a very juicy matchup for the tight end position. And, you know, coming back, he's looking good. It looks like they gave him the right amount of time to get right. And I think that this is a game where they've got to get it. And I'm going to say this. I think Buffalo is going to force some turnovers from current MVP Drake May. I think that Buffalo defense is going to be okay start this week. This just seems like one of those games Buffalo goes, okay, if we really want to like make that playoff run without Patrick Mahomes in there, we got to show we can get past these guys, because this could very well be a playoff game too. You know what I mean? You don't go into the playoffs down 0-2 to the young kid who's never played a playoff game, who doesn't know any better, who doesn't fear you anymore. You instill that fear right back in him. You go, hey, no, we're still Buffalo. We're still Josh Allen. This is still my league. This is still my AFC. You got to go through me, son. So I think that's what they do today or on Sunday.
Big play by Mike Evans gets the Bucs in field goal range before the end of the first half, still 14-10.
You got to love the ramping up the targets to Mike Evans. I think that's his 5th target of the game. And you got to love that. If you have Mike Evans going in the playoffs, you got to love that.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, anyway, let's get back to the breaking on down. The Jets at the Jets. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to talk about New England.
You didn't do the Patriots.
Yeah, my man. TreVeyon Henderson. Yes, I'm in it. Bills, yes, I agree with you. In fact, I think the Bills, I totally agree with everything you said. I think the Bills do come out and shine in this matchup. However, TreVeyon Henderson, man, he's exciting. And the fact of the matter is the Bills have proven they have not been able to stop anyone on the ground. So I think what you're talking about is correct. we will see the Buffalo defense do well, but I think we'll see some big plays out of Travion Henderson. Stephon Diggs did okay last time. It was almost like a revenge factor game for him. He may be a flex-worthy guy, but I don't trust any of the receivers because they are very Drake May does a good job distributing the ball. There's nobody really he mainly targets a lot. So really, it's just Travion Henderson for me on the Patriots side. And I agree with you. I think the Bills come out and shine in this one. All right, now we'll get to the next one. The Jets at the Jags against fantasy QBs. The Jets are 19th. 30th against running backs, 10th against receivers, 13th against tight ends. Jacksonville's 23rd against QBs, 5th against running backs, 19th against receivers, and 29th against tight ends. So, anything good to say about the Jets?
They have a phenomenal kick and punt return unit.
Yep.
And that's about it. And so I was looking up right now, and I think that they are tied with the league with the most special teams touchdowns as far as like returns go. I think they have 2, and they should have had 1 last week too. But yeah, so I mean, if special teams was a thing and it wasn't attached to the defense, it's going to give up like 40 points. I'd say play them. But since I'm not going to do that because you want to trust me with your information, I'm going to say if you have a Jet, I drop them. Just drop them. Just do yourself a favor. Don't go through the hell of overthinking it. Just say, you know what? You're not a playoff team. You're going to be a top 5 draft pick, if not the top pick. Just drop them.
Just do what the Jets do. Give up on the season because that's pretty much what they've done.
You don't give up on the season. You just drop your players. Don't give up on the season just yet.
I meant as far as them is concerned, as far as the Jets are concerned. It's funny because we were at the game last week, obviously up in New York. 2 funny things. One, that's all I was yelling to Fred and the rest of the crowd is like, that's all you got is special teams. And then the funniest thing though was, of course, as we walked in, Fred says, well, it's going to be 28-0 Jets by third quarter, so we'll be getting that Uber early. So, of course, the entire game, all you can hear from our section is, call the Uber, Fred! Call the Uber! Fucking guy. All right, Jacksonville, about to bring some pain this week. Travis Etienne Jr., I like a lot. Bashal Tootin had a couple of fumble issues last week, so he got an uptick in carries, and against his defense, if you're getting the uptick in carries, I mean, look what Devon Achane did. I think it was the second quarter that he went out, and he was already killing it for this week. So, like I said, Travis Etienne Jr. is a great play this week. I don't know who to tell you on the receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. actually looked like he starting to come up a little bit again, so maybe he could be a flex-worthy option for you this week. And Trevor Lawrence, mid-tier guy. If I have a better option, I'm going to go there. But, I mean, this is an easy matchup. But the biggest smash in this matchup is definitely the Jacksonville defense. Go ahead and put them in. Hope you picked them up and get them in your lineup this week. All right, let's go Commanders at Giants. Commanders 29th against QBs, 27th against running backs, 24th against receivers. They're 28th against tight ends. A lot of double digits in the 20s on that side. But it don't get any better on the Giants. They're 31st against QBs, 31st against running backs, 30th against receivers. They are 9th against tight ends, so there is a bright spot. But what do you think about the Commanders?
I think it's going to be a fun game. I think Marcus Mariota is going to have another one of those vintage Mariota games. That being said, I'm not telling you to trust him enough to go pick him up. I'm just saying if you're feeling risque and you don't like your options, he doesn't seem like a bad option in this game. Wide receivers, Terry McLaurin, 100%. The running back, I think it's going to be Krosky Merritt if Rodriguez isn't able to suit up. Both should be rock solid flex options. And then I wouldn't play either one of the defenses because we saw what the Washington defense did last week, and that was absolutely trash. And then the Giants, like I said, I think it's going to be Mariota is going to try and light it up with Jackson Dart out there. So I think it's going to be a rough day to have either one of those defenses. Not that you would have either one of those defenses because you're winning, but I wouldn't go and pick them up just yet if you're looking for one this week.
Happy Thursday. What's up to you, Daniel? Berry Sports. We appreciate you checking in, my friend. All right, let's get to the other side of this matchup and those Giants. I like Jackson Dart in this matchup. I actually like Darius Slayton in this one. I think he's pretty much their big play guy. So I expect to see a few big plays from Slayton. Wan'Dale Robinson has a great floor. His ceiling's not as high, but he's at least worth a flex option. And as far as, that's really it, if I'm being honest with you, because, Tyron Tracy's going back in that lineup this week. So I don't really know who to say. Is it Tyrone Tracy? Is it Singletary? You just never can tell, quite frankly. Maybe both worth a flex option, maybe. But, other than that, I'd look for some better options, just a little more solid for your floor. And that's about it on that side, on the Giant side. All right, let's get to the other epic matchup of the day, the Cleveland Browns at the Chicago Bears. Cleveland Browns are 4th against fantasy QBs. They're 12th against running backs, 4th against receivers, 11th against tight ends. On the Bears side, they're 24th against QBs, 15th against running backs, 29th against receivers, and 20th against tight ends. So what do you say about your favorite QB, Shedeur Sanders, and those Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, we really should have Greg, the Juice is Loose Sanders out here, because we should have Uncle Sanders out here. Just kind of, he's been lovey-dovey with Shedeur, but I'm not going to rag on him for this game. I think this is a great matchup for him. I think this is a matchup where he could really excel. He could really light it up. If you need to, if you're in a pinch and you got bad options at quarterback, he's there on the waiver wire, and he should be just fine in this game. On the Brown side, I really think Judkins gets right in this game. Sampson, I don't know if he's playing yet, but if he is, he would be a nice little stash option. I would not be playing him. And then as far as the receivers go, I don't think I want to trust any of them except for Harold Fannin Jr. Harold Fannin Jr. as a tight end is looking like an elite tight end. He looks like he's going to be David Njoku's successor and do exactly what Njoku did. And Shedeur is just right on point with him so far. I think, Fannin, Shedeur, and Judkins are their safe options as far as players to play. And, it should be a very fun game, quote unquote fun.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know how much I trust Caleb against this Browns D.
That hasn't looked good. I'll give Greg something. He was right. That defense does not look good right now. I think the 49ers kind of broke them a little bit, and then Tennessee kind of rode that little train because Cam Ward did not look amazing, but Tony Pollard looked fucking awesome against them.
Yeah, that was a big surprise. I was watching that from our seats because I had the red zone on my TV, and it just kept popping up. I'm like, Tony Pollard, what is going on over here? Maybe it was, who knows, maybe just a bad day, who knows? But, again, I'm just going to go back to the fact that, it's still the Cleveland Browns. Chicago, they've been good this year, quite frankly. Caleb had not making really a lot of big mistakes other than last week made a big one at the end. But other than that, the receiver wise, we just talked about Romeo Dudze being banged up. I just don't know who the hell to tell you as far as receivers go. Just nothing I would really trust. Swift, I think, is Swift and Monungai. I definitely would put in my flex positions and have no problems doing it. As you just mentioned, Tony Pollard eating him up last week. So definitely could be another week like that, especially as it gets colder, and the weather conditions start to play a factor as well. But that's pretty much it on the Bears side, quite frankly. And I would start their defense, even though it's not that great. But I think Shedeur might make a few mistakes here and there. He's still a rookie. So, you like getting mistakes from the rookie guy. All right, we're going to get to our 4 o'clock games. Before we do, we're going to hear from Meg, who wants to talk about the player she is not going to let in her Meg zone this week. Let's check it out.
Yeah! Yeah, baby, I'm in some MEG zone today.
Security.
Hi guys, welcome back to the MEG Zone, my exclusive club where only the best fantasy football players make it through the door each week. Everyone else gets stopped before they even make it in. So first up this week, my first stoppage is going to be Terry McLaurin
Security.
over in Washington. They face the Giants this week, and that G-Men defense is not being spoken about enough. They are incredible, and I would just be saying, be very careful of putting any Commanders players in your daily fantasy this week. Next up, I'm going to talk about Bo Nix. Now, I love Bo Nix, and I love what Denver are doing. However, Micah Parsons, that's all I want to say on that. Micah Parsons is a force to be reckoned with, and I would say it is risky business taking Bo Nix at QB this week, purely because of that defense. So be careful if you're taking Broncos quarterback or any Broncos offensive player this week against Micah Parsons. Finally, and one that might surprise you, Justin Jefferson.
Security.
JJ is so inconsistent. We saw them shut out the Commanders last week, but the Commanders weren't the full steam Commanders that we're used to. And I am concerned that JJ McCarthy is not going to be making the targets that we think he's going to make, and especially for that Justin Jefferson expectation that we all had at the start of the season for the numbers he was going to put up. So I'm avoiding Justin Jefferson this week. I've been burned too many times this season, and I just am not willing to take the risk again. So Justin Jefferson, sorry buddy, you ain't making it in the Meg Zone this week. If you would like more hints, tips, tricks and advice, then catch us on Sunday with Wake Up With Football on TSS Fantasy. And you can catch me on all of my socials at Ballers_Meg across TikTok and Instagram for more updates as the weeks go on. And I will see you next week for the Meg Zone.
Security.
Alrighty, sorry I had to watch that on my phone since I didn't know when the hell it was coming off. All right, next Thursday night is show the ad Rams Seahawks. Ooh wee, that's gonna be a good one. All right, let's get things started with the 4 o'clockers with Carolina at the Saints. Carolina against QBs are 8th, they're 25th against running backs, 7th against receivers, 23rd against tight ends. On the Saints side, they're 11th against QBs, 18th against running backs, 11th against receivers, and 12th against tight ends. What do you say about those Panthers?
Yeah, I mean this is a really interesting matchup, especially off of last week's Saints beating on the Buccaneers. I like Bryce Young. I like Tet in this game. The real difficult part is picking Chuba or Rico, because Chuba had himself a hell of a game. He's been coming up, and Rico's kind of been slowing down. So I think that's the one position where you kind of go, maybe I can live without having a Panthers running back in my lineup. But, I think definitely Ted McMillan you want him in at the very least as your wide receiver 2 flex range, because that dude consistently puts up 15 points. It don't matter where he's at, who's guarding him. That dude's going to put you 10 to 15 points on the board no matter what. And that's his bare minimum. You get him a touchdown, 2 touchdowns, he's got you a rock solid day. Bryce Young, obviously, bottom of my list of guys you want to start. But if you're looking at the screen and you're going, man, I got Bryce Young, I got freaking number 9 out in Minnesota, and I got Caleb Williams. He wouldn't be a bad option at that point, because I'd be like, okay, it's between him and Caleb. And, Caleb, like you said, has been a little bit shaky as far as fantasy points. But Bryce, when he hits, boy, does he hit. He goes for these 25-point games, and you go, whoa. Maybe you are tall enough to be in the NFL. Maybe you can ride this ride. So, like I said, if you're in that type of a pinch, maybe consider it. But if you actually have good quarterbacks, if you got Drake May, if you got Jackson Dart, if you got good players out there, don't worry about Bryce.
Yeah, I got a feeling if you're in the playoffs right now, Bryce Young probably isn't an option for you. So
he's on waiver wire everywhere. So he's been an option all year long, and you still haven't taken it, and you've done okay for yourself. So keep on going with it.
Indeed. All right, the Saints side's pretty easy. I think Juwan Johnson might be an okay play, but again, you're in the playoffs. You probably got a better option right now. Chris Olave, probably more flex worthy than anything else. There's not really much I like, even though Neal looks like he's going to be the guy at the running back position. But the Panthers aren't very good against the run. So maybe he's worth the flex option as well. But, I saw him in that game against Miami. It just doesn't look like he got it, quite frankly. So I'm just not a big Neal guy. I mean, but he might, if he needs somebody in the flex spot, he might have a decent week this week as well. All right, let's get to a good matchup. Talk about a good game. The Lions at the Rams. Lions against QBs are 27th, first against running backs. They're 31st against receivers, and they're 10th against tight ends. On the Rams side, 10th against running backs, 10th against QBs, 4th against running backs, 18th against receivers, and 19th against tight ends. So what do you like on those Lions?
Man, I like it all. Just play anybody you got on this team. The Rams, they look really good on paper, but I think Carolina was not just like a mishap. I think it's really what can happen to them on defense. And, you're going against the top end of the tier as far as like offense. Like this is the very tippy top of the iceberg. They've got 2 guys at every position, it seems like, except for tight end because Laporte is out. But it's just, it would be hard to believe that the Lions get hung up by the Rams. It's easier for me to believe the Lions will lose a shootout than it is that the Lions will lose a game where they only score like 1 touchdown. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't see that happening in this game. So you got your Jameson Williams, you got your Jahmyr Gibbs, you got your David Montgomery, you got your Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're probably in the playoffs because you drafted some of those guys. So keep them in.
Yeah, this is one of those fantasy bonanza games. I mean, there's nobody I don't like on the Rams side. Daily fantasy, your fantasy, you put them in your lineup. Stafford's had a great year. This is a good matchup as far as pass goes. You love see Devonta Adams, Nakua. Now the only thing I will say with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum, kind of like some of these other running back issues that the other teams are having. Again, I would look at them as more flex worthy, and both of them, quite frankly, I think are flex worthy in this matchup. And, whatever tight end, Colby Parkinson, whatever the hell tight end du jour the Rams come up with, they're not sniffing my lineup. So, but I like everything else, especially on both sides of the football. This is going to be one of those fantasy bonanza games. So get somebody in there. All right, let's talk about the Colts at the Seahawks. Colts against fantasy QBs are 13th. They are 12th against running backs, 27th against receivers, 26th against tight ends. The Seahawks, 9th against QBs, 7th against running backs, 6th against receivers, 31st against tight ends. What say you about the Indianapolis Colts?
Man.
Phillip
Rivers. I think Brian said that Riley Leonard's going to go in this one. And that's going to be interesting because, man, Riley didn't look bad. He really didn't look bad last week. But I fear so much for this team. You have to put Jonathan Taylor in, even though it might not be a great matchup. It's tough. I would probably say Ty Warren is probably your best option for like a startable guy that's going to hit his projections. The wide receivers, Pittman might be a good option, but man, you got a rookie quarterback who's got a first grade or grade 1 PCL tear, and you got a 44-year-old quarterback backing him up. It just sounds like you're gonna have a real rough fucking day. If I have any of these Colts, I'm playing Jonathan Taylor for sure. With confidence. If I don't have a backup tight end, I'm playing with Tyler Warren probably with some good confidence. And then outside of that, I'm probably pulling every Colt I got.
So this one's pretty easy for me. Again, depending on what you have. Sam Darnold might have an okay day. Okay. I'd flex Kenneth Walker or Zach Charbonnet. Both about the same as we were just talking about the Rams and a few other running back I think JSN, obviously, smash start as always. And as you you said, I think last week, that AJ Barner up and down. But the biggest thing in this matchup is get that Seattle Seahawks D in there. You remember what happened the last time that they played a rookie QB. Ooh-wee. I think you're going to see another performance like that again. They've been great all year long. Makes me kind of jealous, or wish the NFL schedule makers would have went the Seahawks against the Rams this week, and then next week I can start the Seahawks against these Colts. But unfortunately, not how it played out. So that, I think, is going to be the best smash start in that matchup. Let's go to Green Bay at Denver. Green Bay against fantasy QBs are 7th, 10th against running backs, 12th against receivers, 17th against tight ends. Denver 6th against running backs, 2nd against receivers. They're 2nd against running backs, 8th against receivers, 21st against tight ends. What say you about the Packers?
Love this matchup for Jordan Love. If Josh Jacobs plays, you got to play him. Christian Watson has just been on a heater, man. He is looking like that number one that we always thought he could be. And as far as like all the other, I thought Wicks was going to be a thing. Look, turns out he only shows up for holidays where you can eat. That's the only time he eats is on Thanksgiving. Romeo Dobbs has been absolutely like regressed back to what he was before. And, the tight end, Luke Musgrave, has not shown up. We're starting to realize Tucker Kraft's going to get a contract, because it's not just, the system. Luke Musgrave is not showing up. Like, he's supposed to be the faster one. He's supposed to be more like a slot receiver. Yeah, I guess it's called bullshit on that one, because he has not looked good at all. But yeah, it's going to be a super interesting game. And you know what? I would put some money on the Packers getting the Bo Nix a couple times, maybe even forcing a fumble. Bo's been a little bit risque with the ball this year, and he's had some turnovers. So I would not be surprised if Micah Parsons treats him like a rag doll for at least the first 3 quarters. Then Bo turns it on.
Yeah, but there's some reason this Broncos offense just seems to turn on one quarter left. So, but Bo Nix, definitely not somebody I'm looking to start this week. Quite frankly, on the Broncos side, there's not much like I'm confident in. Anything else is really a flex option. RJ Harvey, I'd throw on my flex. Same with Sutton. Those are flex guys to me. That's just where they're at. And Bo Nix, like I said, this week, this is kind of, I feel like a good defensive matchup and not good for us fantasy players. So if you got guys in those positions, I'd kind of stay away, quite frankly, is what I would look at. All right, let's go to the Tennessee Titans visiting the San Francisco 49ers. 25th against running backs are the Titans, 19th against quarterbacks. 25th against quarterbacks, 19th against running backs, 25th against receivers, 18th against tight ends. 49ers, 21st against QBs, 17th against running backs, 22nd against receivers, and 22nd against tight ends. Not the 49ers defense we're accustomed to, but what do you got to say about your home team, the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, I would put them in this week. 49ers defense has been off and on, but when they have somebody to pass rush, they're getting to the quarterback. So Bryce Huff has been the guy as the pass rusher. And the one thing that's really surprised me this year is not our first round, but a second and third round picks. We went heavy on the D line. Alfred Collins and CJ West have been absolute monsters up the middle, really getting us back to that stage where we had an interior line to stop the run. And it's been money for us as far as getting teams off the field in 3 and outs. Now, this is not a team that takes away the ball a lot. So if you have a better defense, I would put them in. But I wouldn't expect Tennessee to be scoring a lot of points in this game. As far as the offense goes, I think it's easy. The one-off caveat I'll throw out there is I feel confident starting Ricky Pearsall this week. I think Ricky's been kind of slowly integrating back into the offense. And usually when you have a high-value piece like him, Shanahan will take a bye week to scheme up plays specifically for him. So I would not be surprised if we come out of the bye week and he just lights it up, especially on like the first drive. Shanahan loves to knock it out of the ballpark on the first drive. He's going to light somebody up. He's going to do it right then and there. He's going to give them like 2 or 3 passes right off the get-go. So look for Ricky Pearsall to be getting good. And then everybody else, you know the names. Play them.
Tight ends, Pollard's a flex, and that's it. Let's go to the Vikings at the Cowboys. Vikings against fantasy QBs are third, 11th against running backs, number 1 still against receivers, 16th against tight ends. The Cowboys, dead last against QBs. They're 28th against running backs and dead last against receivers, 14th against tight ends. What say you about the Minnesota Vikings?
Oh, shit. I mean, here's the thing. I want Justin Jefferson, not just for my fantasy team. I want Justin Jefferson to get it. Obviously, McCarthy showed up last week. I don't know if I'm trusting of that all too well, but it's also Dallas. Dallas's defense has been very, very weak this year. So, McCarthy is not somebody I'm starting, but I will start the components of his offense. I will start Justin Jefferson this week. I will start Jordan Addison if you're in a really deep league. And then I'll give it a go with whoever is. If Aaron Jones shows up as the number 1, put him in. If he's injured, then put Jordan Mason.
Yeah, Jordan Mason would be a good start this week if there's no Aaron Jones. On the Cowboys side, definitely going Dak. I don't see how the hell CeeDee Lamb makes it to this game. I mean, the way he looked, as Brian mentioned earlier, slamming the back of his head, this did not look good. So obviously George Pickens, he was going to be a great start anyway, but without CD, he's going to be an amazing start this week as well. Javonte Williams, got to like him as well. Definitely an RB2 status, and again, Jake Ferguson kind of off and on. But this could be, like I said, a points bonanza from the Cowboys this week. So I like that.
Oh my God.
Mike Evans with a big catch. Getting the Bucks down within the 10-yard line. It's 14-13 Falcons right now. So Bucks in field goal range.
You think
already.
they missed him? They fucking missed him.
Oh, hell yeah.
Everybody's playing better. Abuka's catching passes.
Yeah,
everybody's playing
that
better.
ball wasn't that great, quite frankly. Evans had
Nope.
to come back and get it, but boop, and Mike Evans is good to go get. What a catch. That's a man's catch right there. All right, let's get to the final Monday Night Delight, America's team. And you heard it here 3 weeks ago. I told you they're coming on a playoff run. Here they come. Miami against fantasy QBs are 22nd. They are 16th against running backs, 9th against receivers, 30th against tight ends. Steelers, they're 26th against QBs, 8th against running backs, 26th against receivers, 27th against tight ends. And if you don't mind, let me take the mic real quick. The bottom line is, if you're an HN owner, you are starting him this week because, he's got you here. But don't be surprised if he doesn't see the amount of carries that he normally sees because of the injury to the ribs. So, Jalen Wright still to me is a flex option this week. And the Steelers all year have not been good against receivers. So I'm good with Jalen Waddle. He's a receiver too for me this week. Maybe we see Darren Waller. Maybe we don't. I don't know. This guy is like, whatever. But, I don't trust Tua a ton. Even in the Jets game, I still felt, he was missing things, especially when you're there, you can see it. Definitely missing some reads. So, I'm not huge Tua guy this week, but Jalen Waddle, I still think will shine this week. And like I said, it sucks for us HN owners, but, I just wouldn't expect a ton out of him this week. But he did a lot with the limited carries with the Jets, so we'll see. And if TJ Watt's out, that makes it even more sweeter. All right, what do you think, Justin, about the Steelers?
Yeah, good thing you're a Devon A-Chain owner with a bye this week, so you can happily sit on there and go, I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, TJ Watt, like you said, that's the big one right there. I think that, obviously they have to rely more on Alex Highsmith and the rest of this aging Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I actually might change my pick from the Steelers to the Dolphins if Watt is not able to go, because that changes everything. I'm going to take a note out of my Commissioner Cooper book of advice and say I'm going to go with DK Metcalf, because as the commission would say, a big body receiver is a nightmare against the Dolphins defense. That also being said, I love a good revenge narrative, and Jonnu Smith saying "fuck you," you shouldn't have traded me. No, he's been garbage anyways. But I think that he could definitely have a resurrection game. Once again, do not put anything on my word about a guy who is not on your team already. Don't do it. I'm just saying what I would possibly do if I had the options. And luckily, I draft tight end really well, so I don't need that option. But it seems like he could have a big game in this one, or at least a touchdown maybe. And then Kenneth Gainwell and Jalen Warren. I'm very happy starting Kenneth Gainwell. Very happy because they get him so involved in this offense as a pass catcher, as a runner, everything. He just looks so explosive in this offense. Jalen Warren, on the other hand, he feels like a really solid flex. If you need that third running back, you drafted running back so well, I would go for that. That was a good move on them to get Gainwell and have Warren in there. But yeah, I mean, this should be another kind of like a slobber knocker of a game. I think it's going to be in the high 20s. I mean, these two teams are really just battling each other on offense and waiting for the defense. On defense, you're just waiting for the final whistle because you just want to get their guck out of there.
Miami's D's really step up as of late, so it's going to be interesting to see. Again, look at their opponents though. So, now finally starting somewhat decent. So we'll see how they look. And by the way, Sean Tucker tonight, if you're a Buccaneers owner, Greg, I know you're hating life because they get into the goal line and it's been the Sean Tucker show. He just got a flag for a face mask on him. So they're going to be half the distance of the goal for the Bucs right now. But yeah.
Greg Sanders is calling his connections to Tampa right now. He's just like, I'm going to turn off your spectrum if you don't put fucking Bucky in.
He already texted me during the show. He's like, they're not running the ball at all. What the hell? Oh, man. It sucks when you're in the NFC Championship game or you're in the playoffs, I'm sorry, and just not going well for you on Thursday night. There's nothing worse. All right. Well, before we close out tonight, let's get sophisticated with our boy Andrew LeDuc with his sophisticated starts of the week.
It's time to bring some sophistication to your fantasy lineups with Mr. Mallard.
Welcome into Sophistication Station. I am Andrew LeDuc, host of the Division Pivot Show, and let's get to our classy start. These playoffs are on the roll here and underway. Let's start off with Devon Achane.
Stay thirsty, my friend.
Devon Achane has now become one of the top running backs in the league. He's explosive. When he's healthy, he's explosive, and he's got a good matchup against Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh's defense has been up and down. It's been good, it's been bad, whatever. Dolphins are on a ride right now. They're riding high. They're going to continue to ride Devon Achane to as far as they can go. We'll see. Now let's also get to Devin Singletary.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Against the Washington Commanders this week. That offense, he's looking good in it. I know Tyron Tracy is back, but let's be honest, Devin Singletary, I think looks better than Tracy does. So I like Devin Singletary to still get his and still get in the end zone this week as a sleeper start in the flex position. And then let's also get to George Pickens. George Pickens is a high flyer for us. He's playing against Minnesota this week. Minnesota is kind of reeling. They're trying to figure out who they are now that the J.J. McCarthy back. I like George Pickens to continue to get open, to continue to get separation, to continue to make plays for you. So that's Devon Achane, that's Devin Singletary, that's George Pickens. I'm Andrew LeDuc. Those are your classy starts. And as always, stay classy, friends.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Now go win your fantasy matchup with class.
Baker Mayfield throwing a rope to Devin Culp. And listen, for a touchdown. So they're up 20-14. If you have Devin Culp in your lineup, then you need to host this show. All right, we are heading out for tonight.
If you have Devin Culp on your dynasty team, you need to feed me some tips.
For real. Jeez, oh please. I'm like, who? All right, don't forget to wake up with us on Sunday morning, 8 a.m. I'll be coming to you live from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So make sure you check us out on Sunday morning. Lots of good fun. We're going to give you some betting advice, our picks for the week, and some ultimate DFS lineups. And, of course, Fantasy Jesus and our Sunday morning cartoon. So make sure you check it out. All right, guys, well, we appreciate you joining us tonight. Send us any fantasy questions, of course, on any social media. And, of course, you can leave your comments in here. We'll be happy to answer them on Sunday morning for you as well. From us to you, we appreciate you. Good luck in the playoffs, and we are out.